It's your mom. She is missing. Without any context, assume the worst. Slavery. Like how Aisha and Lilia were trapped by Zanoba's creepy brother, you have been putting off finding your mother while you start your own family, make new friends, and getting ready to become a
dada yourself.
You are the great, rudest Doranuma Grey Rat, and it's time to save mom, and we are finally finding out the real context behind your mother's whereabouts. Spoiler warning guys, this video will be covering Mushoku Tensei Season 2 Episode 20, Mekyuri. Up until this point, all we really knew about Zena's situation is that she was missing or trapped somewhere. The story did a really good job of leaving her situation as a really big mystery, but we are finally here. Basically like 30 episodes later. And it's been about 6 years since the teleportation event. So let's jump right into it. We are finally here in Rappan. It's time to track down Real Paul, and of course the best place to start first is at the guild hall, where Geese and the others are likely to be. Judging by Geese's characteristics and how he got caught up with Rudy back then, Geese specializes in being a Weasley intelligence gatherer. He may not be strong, but he's very good at intelligence. I guess that means his wits. Right on cue, Alina, Lise, and Rudy show up at the Adventurers Guild, where they see Geese being waved off by Geese's attempts at geesing Quack off. Alina Lise calls out to Geese, and he is surprised by how soon they arrived to help him. Geese is surprised to see little Doranuma become big Doranuma. Geese is like, once you do time together behind bars, you're like homies for life. Never mind the beast prisoner stuff back in the day. It's time to see your daddy, Real Paul. What the hell happened to you? Basically, for one episode, there was just Rudy and Alina Lise traveling, and it cut straight to the chase. At least we got to see just a little bit of interaction and a little bit of fun adventures with Alina Lise and Rudy. They gave us a little reintroductory character development for poor Zenith, the person that no one really cares about story-wise. But now, they must team up with Real Paul, the disappointing Real Paul, and all the others. After the credits, Geese takes Rudy and Alina Lise straight to Real Paul. Well, Real Paul is in really bad shape right now. Like the disappointing bad dad role model that you want to look up to, but probably shouldn't. Geese warns Alina Lise and Rudy about making things worse for him. Rudy accepts that things won't go fist to face again, and Alina Lise stays tilted, so she might still give Real Paul a piece of her dragon road. Given that warning, Geese goes ahead and opens the door, and we see Real Paul is slightly delirious at the fact that Rudy showed up in a lot earlier than everyone expected. It's no surprise for Doranuma. Real Paul hugs Rudy like he wants to be pitied. I guess that's why there's a discount Paul when Real Paul can't do the job of being that masculine role model. Pitied, Real Paul tells Rudy that Kasan is kind of unsavable right now. Real Paul admits that he can't do anything for young Rudy either, and that he can't live up to his promises, and then it flashes to Alina Lise. Did we just stumble upon the cure for Alina Lise? However, it was in this moment that Rudy realizes,
Go fuck yourself, Hitogami.
I ain't regretting this. My dad needs me to be dad, and my future child needs Norn, Aisha, and maybe even Zanoba to be dad of my child, because passing on the parental responsibilities is the Grey Rat way. Salute to the lineage of Grey Rats. Real Paul is surprised at how much Rudy has grown. Rudy happily tells him that we got another little Rudy coming too. By how Real Paul has been reacting to everything, Real Paul seems so much like a bum. Ain't that right, Alina Lise? Real Paul may have done the unattainable, unimaginable, make Alina Lise dry. With this method of cure for Alina Lise, it comes with Real Paul side effects like being let down, coming up short, being betrayed, passing down your responsibilities as a stand-up man. It ain't worth it. And just like that, the cure is gone. Real Paul realizes that Alina Lise is standing before him, and he gets on one knee to apologize. Like any past relationships, blame can go both ways. Alina Lise puts her hand out to accept Real Paul's apology, and I guess we have to rely on future cuff Pope Cliff to perfect this metal diaper. Real Paul gets straight to business to ask about how Alina Lise bypassed her curse and assume he's now Eskimos with his son. I'm sure Real Paul was proud for a moment until Alina Lise fills him in about the magnificent cliff whom she refers to as her
Anna-sama.
This is why Real Paul is Real Paul, because he reacted in a way any normal person would react. Who in the Hitogami wiped you up? Alina Elise responded with, the man who made me a metal diaper, Cliff. Rudy tells his dad that Cliff may be a cuck, but he's respectable and a real friend. Real Paul walks back his words a little bit to say that he'd be happy to meet a fellow Eskimo. Is he an Eskimo? Real Paul thanks the two for traveling for months to reach them to help and begins to start elaborating upon Zenith's whereabouts due to Geese's information gathering. Apparently, she's trapped in a labyrinth that's only about a day's travel to the north. No one knows how long and what her Jiltai is, but there's about 6 years of hope right there. Geese fills in on rumors that some people may have seen her in that labyrinth recently. Then, Real Paul fills in about their failed attempts to get through this dangerously old labyrinth. They've had about a year and 4 pro explorers, but can't even make it halfway. The dwarf Tauhen comes in and says and does archetypal dwarf things, and the goddamn Bear comes in to show us what she's working with. I mean, really, does she even talk? Tauhen compliments Rudy and it zooms in on Rudy's ass. Sets? He wants his assets. Real Paul commences the meeting as he says that everyone is here. Zane? What you mean? Our ROXY is dead? Well, she might be dead or she might not be dead. Rudy is out here reacting more heartbroken for ROXY than his own mother. ROXY may be dead or might not be dead, just like your mother, Rudy. Everyone gives a grim look and starts debating over whether ROXY is actually dead. Real Paul fills in Shonen Rudy that ROXY accidentally fell into a teleportation, so there's no real confirmation of what happened to ROXY. And we all know the worst of the worst. Slavery. Or a monster hentai. Just as Rudy gives his distraught reaction to ROXY's whereabouts, Alina Elise puts her soft hand on his shoulder to snap him out of his gray rat gene. Spiraling out of control, Rudy apologizes about ROXY and asks about the context of the labyrinth. Real Paul explains further that this labyrinth is super duper dangerous as even ROXY got caught up in it. It is an S-rank labyrinth and it is called the Teleporter Labyrinth. And this is where the genius scene where Rudy conveniently brought a book that would help him with the teleportation and more specifically help them with this exact labyrinth. Real Paul tells Geese to check out the book and he quickly skims through it. Plot convenience, plot convenience, plot convenience. With this knowledge, Geese quickly concludes that they will make it to the 6th stratum of the labyrinth. Plot convenience, here we go. Given this revelation, Real Paul tells everyone to give it some time with this new information before they come up with a sound strategy. Us! This first half of the episode did a lot for the plot to save Zenith. Real Paul went from deadbeat to okay. He's still redeemably respectable. This is the first time being able to see a big group that has Rudy and Alina Elise included. So that means we're gonna get a lot of interactions that we never really seen in this context of like an adventure in a labyrinth. And of course, the big revelation, ROXY is dead. Or is she? For the audience in the story, when someone's creating a story like this, it's really hard to fathom that ROXY would just like die off. Of course, that would be terrible. That such a crucial character just suddenly died. One of the most popular characters from the very beginning of the series just dies off screen. That sounds so stupid. But with the scene with Rudy reacting the way he did, it did make it a lot more intriguing for his character development. And of course, we don't see Rudy this shocked and scared. The only time he gets this distraught and scared is Orsted and his ED. I'm so sorry, Kasan. You need a better son. All Rudy cares about is booty. Overall, the first half of the episode sets the stage for like the calm before the storm, before we get to see what plays out within the labyrinth. I did think that they would probably play Real Paul being reintroduced again of his kind of depression. I thought they would be a lot more emphatic with those kind of scenes, but I think the scenes did its job. The scene shifts to nighttime as everyone gets rest and Lilia mentions to Rudy that they never slept in the same room before and to happily complain about Real Paul's terrible snoring. They begin to catch up as she asks Master Rudy how Aisha is doing. Hopefully she's not being too selfish and she is doing her maid duties to her Nichan. As we all know here on this channel, Aisha is #1 emoto for a reason, as she happily does all the chores and is really on top of everything that has to do with house duties and taking care of Sophie and Rudy. Even her little shopping spree with Rudy was never as bad as this. Almost #1 emoto. With the genius and natural work ethic of Aisha, being a little selfish might be more of a benefit for her. This causes Real Paul to laugh as Rudy's like, "The hell you smirking for? Our little big Rudy is all grown up, catching up with Lilia. That is so sweet." Then Real Paul asks about his future kid, where Rudy updates him about everything that has happened since they last parted ways. Rudy's basically like, "I banged Eris, but I banged Sylphie more. So that means I needed to wife her up." Marriage? Sylphie? I don't even know why Real Paul acting all surprised. I mean, he was only talking to like 2 girls. Real Paul puts on his redeeming dad qualities and tells Rudy how he wouldn't have asked him to come here right when he's about to start his own family. It's just the reality of being a gray rat, folks. As Rudy apologizes for like not being there when Zenith was out in the abyss, possibly being tortured as a slave, Real Paul puts his hand on Rudy. It's like, "We gonna party when everything is all said and done." Not the Diddy kind though. Rudy responds that of course, "You're a G-chan now." Like any becoming of an old man. Real Paul denies he's that old guy just yet and says that, "Rudy, you've become a man now." Ain't that right? Lilia steps in and is like,
Hana-sama, must you be so vulgar?
"Come on, Lilia, let them have their slice of life bonding time before entering an S-tier labyrinth where anyone can die." Rudy can learn a thing or two from Real Paul in the ways of the gray rat smashing. Ain't that right, Lilia? Like the one time you seduced Real Paul into creating #1 emoto. We have a very nice scene between the main family members of Rudy's family. That doesn't include Zenith. It was nice to see just a little bit of slice of life bonding time before somebody dies or loses a pinky or loses a ROXY. The night passes and everyone gathers at the site of the labyrinth where all plans are already planned and ready for action. Lilia gives her words of encouragement for Zenith's future savers. So the anime, it feels like they skipped a lot of the in-between kind of context stuff. I guess we really already had that kind of slice of life downtime. And as we journey through the labyrinth with the characters, that strategy starts to unfold. So that becomes a part of the mystery of what they'll do as they go from layer to layer throughout the labyrinth. Real Paul, Rudy, Alina Lise, Geese, and Taohan start the journey through a cave tunnel, and Taohan starts to compliment Rudy the Real Paul. Rudy warns everyone about the teleportation circles and how it immediately warp you and how not all of them will glow, which makes it a lot more dangerous for them to step on. With this being an S-tier labyrinth adventure, everyone is making sure to walk carefully where Geese steps to prevent any triggering of any other dangerous traps. Then, real monsters! Miss Dragon Road springs into action, but we haven't really seen Real Paul flex his gray rat muscles against real enemies before. So he ones up Alina Lise, getting in front of her by slicing this spider monster in half. Rudy notices right away that Real Paul is just showing off, and this kind of mindset starts to cause trouble right away in the group as Alina Lise stops Real Paul to say that Real Paul is supposed to walk behind her as she is supposed to stay in the lead. Alina Lise continues scolding Real Paul that this is Rudy's first real labyrinth adventure and Real Paul's acting too much gray radish. Real Paul seems to be just as excited about this adventure as he was when he picked up a 16-year-old Zenith. I mean, let's be real here. If you're in Real Paul's situation, you're gonna want to show your son what you can do. Real Paul tells Alina Lise how much more bitchy she's become than in the past. Alina Lise straight up tells Real Paul that he's basically her son now, so that leaves Real Paul to try to get Rudy to agree with him that she's so damn full of herself. But we all know Rudy's like,
She's my step-bacha now.
which makes you father Mama Musuko. Moving along in the labyrinth, the party reaches the teleportation circle that should take them to the second stratum. However, there are a bunch of monsters in the way. Alina Lise and Real Paul spring into action again, and Taohan warns Rudy to not use any fire magic because it will cause the monster to release a poison. This labyrinth isn't any typical labyrinth. Rudy must avoid using certain magic and use the right kind of magic to avoid beyond the typical booby traps. Rudy realizes that Tauhen is likely referring to the carbon monoxide as that poison. Tauhen informs Rudy further of not attacking the ceiling because it may cause them to get caved in, so using too much water magic is just out of the question. So this concludes that ice is the best magic to use in the situation, so this sparks Rudy to get ready to use his spike attack he loves to use, but icicle instead. One by one, all the monsters get taken out by Rudy's spell, and Tauhen compliments him with his abilities, comparing him to just how ROXY uses the same spells. And notice how he mentioned that comparison to ROXY. He concludes from the book that the teleportation circle that they're at should be fine to use, and Real Paul gives the order for everyone to get on to get teleported to the next layer. Then he gives the command for everyone to rest at this second level, and everyone quickly gets comfortable for the next run. This sparks Rudy to realize how quickly Real Paul's demeanor has shifted. Before, Real Paul would continue to comfort him and ask how he's doing. Now Real Paul is acting more demanding, telling him to hurry up to get rested. This is likely resulting from how much harder that this labyrinth is about to get. That fun joker Real Paul is no more. He's about to get even more real. He tells Rudy that they are already nearing the third stratum, and that according to the book that he gave him, the traps around these parts should only teleport them to another area in the same level, so the risk factor there is not as great on that level. He even gives an optimistic outlook to Rudy that ROXY may actually still just be around somewhere. Notice they keep mentioning ROXY throughout the episode, but it all starts with Rudy's reaction that, dude, where is she? Where is she at? Can she be dead? But the mentioning of ROXY there tells us that there's something obvious that's gonna happen. As they continue further on the second stratum, Rudy mentions how he thought it'd take days to travel from layer to layer, but Real Paul tells him that the book he brought is super convenient. He's asked out of the blue if Rudy got some of that Conte in regards to where ROXY may be, and of course the answer is hell nah, but maybe. So this right here is the little hint before the big event. A little droplet sound has gotten the Dornuma senses tingling. Something has gotten over on Rudy, and he begins investigating a part of this cave wall where that droplet was coming from. It's no coincidence that Geese asked Rudy out of the blue if he got some Conte about ROXY. Because of Rudy's sudden reaction and the odd thing he's doing at the cave wall, everyone is questioning what is going on with Rudy. Why are you reacting this way? And it is through this little slit or a hole in the cave that Rudy sees our lolly goddess, ROXY. ROXY is fighting off hordes and hordes of monsters. She looks all beat up, but she ain't getting down easy. ROXY impressively takes down a horde of monsters, but another wave keeps teleporting to threaten a really disgustingly monster hentai situation from happening. ROXY is beyond her wits and is nearing her in as a monster, throws a rock at her. ROXY still has it in her to prevent these monsters at all costs from creating a monster hentai. I will not be someone's perversion, not today. No matter how hard ROXY fights back, her consciousness is slowly becoming muishiki. Will our Yusha Tachi save Rudy's beloved Lolly Shisho? Probably, but it gets more perverted as the monster shoots some white stuff. Ew! The last time I seen a character wet themselves nearing their death was the first episode of Goblin Slayer. That was such an epic episode. It's probably the best episode of Goblin Slayer. As a haze, ROXY is laying there, wet for the wrong reasons. She is begging for her life, and these monsters are nearing this deadly, perverted outcome. She drops one of my favorite anime cliches like,
"Dareka, tasukete!"
That is such a classic line in anime. I love it, because you know there's some shit that's about to go down. If you were expecting a sudden explosion of some kind, be disappointed, but relieved that a glowing light that is Rudis Dornuma Greirato is here to save Lolly Shisho. When your master's the chick, there's a double standard here. Rudis just did the thing that would get Roxy completely moist, but not the kind we just witnessed. Brutus found his way to his master just in the nick of time, freezing the entire wave of monsters and saving Lolly Shisho, the legend that is Brutus, Doronuma, Grey Rat, that has beaten the odds of ED, has beaten the odds of being Roxy's Rudy Booty, and that is how epic the episode concludes. Alright guys, even though I make fun of how Rudy handles Roxy compared to his mother, the episode does a good job of setting up that devastation feeling for Rudy of how much Roxy means to him. She was literally in the first episode, guys. This could have been the end for Roxy, but we all know Roxy's too crucial of a character to just die off just like that. Do you want your ratings to plummet? No. This moment of Rudy saving Roxy is just to show how awesome Rudy has become. We all know, obviously, he's not Orsted level. But everyone like that's below the tier of Orsted, he's in that powerful range. Look how easily he just destroyed all those monsters that Roxy was struggling with. But then again, Roxy was probably there for days and days, but that's not the point. Rudy got to show what he's really working with. Why at the Renoa Magic Academy he gets all these praises. This moment of Rudy saving Roxy is unregrettable. Ain't that right, Hitogami? This episode's pace from the first half being the setup to the second half going straight into the adventure saving his mom was really damn awesome. This is the kind of episode why we were here in the first place. That fantasy isekai, that's the fantasy in it, has been sorely missed, but I'm not saying like the slice of life is bad or anything like that. It's just kind of more of a fun experience of that fantasy adventure of a damn isekai. Regarding all the relationships and catching up, the Alina, Lisa, and Real Paul situation is still leaving out a little bit of context, which could make for a fun surprise later in the story. That little subtle hint from Alina Lisa saying how excited Real Paul being with Rudy in the labyrinth, like when Zenith first joined his party, is a contextual nugget to how the Real Paul, Zenith, and Alina Lisa situation played out. While this episode's focus is clearly on saving the loving mother and wife that is on the brink of a really bad tragedy, it clearly sets up the devastating feeling of what happened to Roxy. So you gotta have something in between the story of the main plot, which is the teleportation, right? Everyone disappearing and to save his mother, but we all have all the stuff in between. So now that kind of side quest, the kind of side plot to put in the story is, oh, one of the characters missing. You have that layered plot underneath, and of course, you got Rudy doing the most dope shit you could do as a hero. Save your master that you always wanted to bang. I can't lie, this might be the best episode of season 2, and yes, I'm even talking about the part 1 of season 2. This is the payoff point for Rudy going through ED, building all these relationships, him still progressing as a strong mage, strong character, beating down douchebag Grey Rat, with Rudy finally going against the man god's suggestion of going to beggar it as being something regrettable. This scene between Rudy and Roxy right here, while Rudy's situation may still be regrettable, he will never regret this moment, or maybe he will. And also guys, I know there's 0% of you guys that actually make it to the end of my video, but I've been reading a lot of my comments, especially the shorts comments. I get spoiled a lot, so that has motivated me to just start reading a little bit of the light novel. I did read the part where it talked about what Eris has been doing all this time. Of course, I'm not gonna spoil that part, but it's clearly she gotta be doing something. So that's gonna be fun if they ever make like a little side episode like that, like how in the first season they had like that OVA or that last episode with Eris doing that little side thing with Cliff. And I checked the manga too, and the manga is basically right at this point, so there's no point of really reading it. And of course, the real big thing about the manga is like the feeling of the manga is a lot different compared to the light novel in the anime. It's a lot more kind of humorous and they skip a lot of context, but it's whatever. If the manga ever actually goes further, I'll probably just read that. But the light novel, it really does inform you a lot about the detail, every single detail. But yeah guys, let me know what you guys thought about this episode and everything up until this point. Respect the journey because we all die anyways. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Check out my blog at otakusen.com, and I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.